Wendigo or Wendigo is this old Native American legend that was spoke of by the Algonquian people. Now, the description of this thing varies. Hollywood has made it look more like this very tall man with deer antlers, but the truth is that it looks more like a human corpse. And it's said this thing consumes human flesh. Now, the Native Americans described it as sort of this man who looked very sickly or like a corpse, that was very skinny, pale white skin, dark yellow jagged teeth, sharp yellow nails, sometimes red, sometimes blue eyes, and this very long blue tongue that it would use to sort of taste its victims. Now, there are different versions of a Wendigo. Some tribes believe that the Wendigo is just a man who has gone crazy and now consumes human flesh. In other tribes, they believe of it being this evil spirit that lives in the woods. And when a hunter or trapper would go out into the woods, this thing would devour him and then take the form of that person and then go back to his tribe and eat the entire tribe. In other legends, it's sometimes seen as this very tall entity that can move very fast through the woods, can climb trees, and also can shapeshift. But a lot of people believe this just goes back to in winter times when food was scarce, it would lead to cannibalism. Now, this is a story that I heard out of Wisconsin. There was this girl named Leah, and she said when she was a young girl that she used to stay at her grandmother's. And her grandmother's lived in this cabin out in the woods next to this lake. And she said late at night she would sit outside with her grandmother and they would hear the croaks of the frogs. And her grandmother would say, "There's an old story about the frogs croaking. You see, at one time there used to be this man and a woman, and they lived next to the lake. And every night they would hear the frogs croaking. And the woman, she would be enchanted and excited to hear this sound. But the man would be annoyed and say, 'Oh, I hate the sound of the frogs croaking. I wish they would stop.' And his wife would say, 'Don't you do anything to those frogs because they are protecting us from the Wendigo.' And it would be very unwise to do so. Well, the foolish man decided he one day was going to get rid of all the frogs in the lake. So through this meticulous process, he eliminated all of the frogs in the area. And after the frogs were gone, there was nothing to protect him from the Wendigo. So the Wendigo came one night and consumed both of them. So whenever you hear the frogs croaking, that means you are protected from the Wendigo. So Leah said she just thought, that was a story her grandma told her to entertain her. So later on in life, she said that she moved to this very rural area of Pennsylvania into a house that sort of reminded her of her grandmother's. It was, in the woods right next to a lake. And she was so excited at night to hear the croaking of the frogs, so she would leave her windows and her door open to kind of allow that sound to permeate through the house. So many months passed, and this one particular night, she is enjoying the sound of the frogs croaking from the lake. And she said all of a sudden, she just got this very bad feeling, like in the pit of her stomach. And she couldn't describe it, but she felt very anxious and kind of freaked out. And then she realized the sound of the frogs croaking had completely stopped. So she's like, what could have made them all go quiet? Like, what is it causing that? And she said as she sat there and the house was just completely silent now, she hears from outside someone saying, Leah, Leah. And she realizes, like, that's my grandmother's voice. But my grandmother's long gone. Once again, she hears, Leah, come here, come outside. Let's go play by the lake. And she's thinking, like, what is, like, happening? So she said she went to the window and she's, like, looking in the direction of where it sounds like the sound is coming from. And she said, standing by the lake, she sees this man. He's completely naked, and his skin is very tight on his bones, and his eyes are glowing red. And she can see him kind of crouched down, moving. And then she hears him say, Leah, Leah, in her grandma's voice, but she could tell it's this man. And he's sort of just standing there, close to the lake, kind of scurrying back and forth. And so she said she closed all of her windows and she closed all of her doors. And she said outside she could hear this thing banging on the windows, banging on the doors, trying to get into the house. So frantically she's panicking, like, what do I do? What do I do? So she grabs her phone, which is connected to a Bluetooth speaker, and she starts playing the sound of frogs croaking. And she said all of a sudden, after she started playing that, the energy changed and she felt like calm and comfortable and like she was protected. And she said the next day she went outside and she found all of these scratches on the side of the house, and like siding was kind of like ripped off, like something was trying to dig into the wall. And near the lake, all of the frogs were deceased. Something had like taken bites out of them. So she said every night to this day she plays the sounds of frogs to help her fall asleep.